Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Bounty Hunter channel. Now, why fight a war with standard blasters when you could just burn everyone alive, right? At least that's what the First Order thought, and I guess that's not out of line for them anyways, but with that said, I'll be explaining the Flame Troopers of The Force Awakens that, as it turns out, might have been a smarter idea in battle than you thought, since even the standard Stormtrooper armor was flame-proof. The weaponry of these guys consisted of the D-93 Incinerator, which was basically just a D-93W flame projector gun with double barrels attached to a backpack with fuel and propellant tanks. Their main purpose was to infulge any enemy resistance infantry in flames, especially those in trenches ahead on the battlefield. The galaxy also knew these monsters as toasters, hotheads, roasters, and burnouts, but were obviously known on standard as First Order Flame Troopers. And you know, the galaxy is always going to have these names for these characters like bucket heads and that kind of stuff, so those are the ones for these guys. But this was the slowest yet arguably most powerful weapons specialist group of the three that were included in the knockoff Empire, that being heavy gunners, riot troops, and of course these flame troopers. And we see the riot troops a little bit in The Force Awakens, I believe. Not too much of the heavy gunners, but they do fight against the X-Wings at one point. The reason for their decreased speed comes down from them having to stay behind the stream of fire their weapons produced. The gun was even more deadly when in an environment that is flammable or dry, like Jakku for instance, and you can imagine if there was like leaves or trees or something in an area, it would probably be very brutal to go against. But they were also great for granting cover for the First Order allies, but denying it for the enemy with the blaze that was hard to escape from. These soldiers worked exceptionally well with normal stormtroopers who could protect their slower counterparts and also fire on escaping resistance fighters after a fire is started. Also, the armor of all First Order stormtroopers could protect from flames to prevent friendly fire. The armor was equipped with a reinforced cryomech helmet as well as supplement breathing tank linkages, which was necessary for their survival. The helmet also possessed a narrow slit visor as well as minimal openings to protect against the glare and heat of the weapon. Also, a temperature control body glove, knee covers built on, positive grip boots, and articulated greaves for the foot movement. And lastly, a pauldron was as usual installed on the right side of the suit for officers. It's honestly crazy how genius these militaries are. I mean, let's just put a big red target on your shoulder and I'm sure that'll help. Don't worry, Glob, it's for recognition. These First Order Stormtroopers, which were kind of the newest variant of this line of incendiary people, were inspired by the clone troopers and Mandalorian super commandos of years past, and the incendiary weaponry was improved by the latest technology of the time to further destroy resistance forces. Following Agent Terex were many flame troopers who were sent on a mission to Ovanis with the objective of extracting info about Operation Sabra Strike under Poe Dameron by scorching an egg, but instead of melting it, the thing hatched, revealing the creature inside, which was a huge entity with wings that was hailed by the Kresh. During the massacre of the spiritual village of, I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, but Tanul on Jakku, where FN2187 would make up his mind regarding his role as a stormtrooper, multiple of these flame troopers were utilized to infulge the huts of the Church of the Force, as well as the inhabitants of said village and church. After this show of power, Lor San Tekka would be murdered by Kylo Ren, who arrives in a shuttle. This really is probably the best scene of these soldiers we get to see in any of the movies, as they are just right in the spotlight here, putting fire all over the place. When Finn, Rose, and DJ attempted to hack into the Supremacy Capital ship and were captured due to DJ rooting them out, flame troopers were present in the hangar bay of the abrupt execution, which was cut short by the destruction of the vessel. Also, during the firing of Starkiller Base, multiple of this class of soldiers are seen about on the grounds. The only other planet they are listed as serving on in canon is Crate. For the costumes developed for Episode 7, materials like polyurethane and also cotton lycra, neoprene, and molded rubber were used for the complex suits that had to look modern and high-tech. The flame flamethrowers and backpacks were 3D printed with an overall aluminum frame to encase the armor. In the comic Age of Resistance #1, Finn, a flame trooper character known as Captain Bray, plays an important part. Bray was a loyal but also merciless soldier dedicated entirely to the First Order, going as far to call his fellow troopers and also creatures of the galaxy worthless when compared to the goals of his faction. This was likely a result of the First Order's training system, where they would basically abduct people from around the galaxy as infants and then force them into a mold filled with loyalist propaganda. Captain Bray also believed that nobody was above a task to serve this cause. While he had a slight joking side, he was often angry and would punish people like Finn just for quote-unquote complaining. He came equipped with the standard D-93 flamethrower and heat-resistant armor, as well as his red captain's pauldron, which he wore with pride. Sometimes he would call his helmet a bucket. On Starkiller Base, where Bray served, was an incident where a construction unit in a flood chamber came into contact with an infestation, which ate 2 of the personnel and left 1 phased survivor who was little to no use for information regarding the situation. Captain Bray would take charge of a cleaning crew accompanied by stormtroopers like FN-2187. When entering the tunnel of the infestation using floodlights to view their surroundings, the group is attacked by the creatures that use supersonic screams, and they would then overwhelm the captain before he then drops his flamethrower and falls back, leaving Finn a chance to run up and save the cruel man. FN-2187 uses the flamethrower on the ground to shoot up at the creatures, sending them back, which lightly burned Bray. Then he ordered him to clean up the mess using a trash skiff, and when Finn asked why, Captain Bray again reminded him of his low value compared to the ideals of the First Order, and threatened the young soldier with transportation of trash if these offenses continued. Finn would later discover that this was a native species while cleaning the tunnels out, and then met up with the crew again to discuss how they should move it off the planet. But as Bray was still angry, he used this as an opportunity to force Finn to escort trash to the garbage moon of Mahar, where Finn would in turn use to move the creatures over to the new area. I actually really like comics like this that explore the characters that had so little development in these movies, it feels like. So overall, whoever made this one, props to you. And I don't know about you, but Captain Bray seems like a total to me. I mean, he really is a just saying. But as I mentioned earlier, these First Order troopers were basically inspired by previous variants, so here's a brief timeline of some of the other troopers. The Clone Flame Troopers were a specialized branch in the Republic military that used many incendiary weapons like the BT-X-42 and had unique armor to protect them from their often heated environments that had evolved from the poor performing Mark I insulated armor of the Flame Trooper Corps. Ki-Adi-Mundi and Clone Commander Jet would lead a squad of these men into a cave at the Second Battle of Geonosis to finish the enemies inside and move on to help Kenobi with his side of the battle. So it turns out Anakin isn't the only guy out there committing war crimes. The more you know. The Galactic Empire had its own variation of Flame Trooper that had a similar hooded look like the clone variant before it, and these specialized troopers served on planets like Kashyyyk, Kobo, and Nur, with their weapons used to defend against local fauna. And in the games Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, it is important to use the Force in order to get around their wrath. Also, a stormtrooper with red paintings on it is known as the Incinerator Trooper, who had their own unique guns that were later used on Navarro in 9ABY. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. I upload every Friday and sometimes on Sunday too at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, I post shorts on Saturday, but yeah, see ya.